Good morning, students. My name is Professor Echo, and welcome to our wonderful school. I'm so glad you can join me here because this is a very special place that I'm excited to share with you. Today, I will teach you how to be something called a paleontologist in a brand new and exciting way, unlike anything that anyone has ever seen before. I'm going to teach you by having you interact with living, breathing dinosaurs. As you might have guessed already, a paleontologist is someone who studies dinosaurs. To do this, they use special tools such as picks, shovels, and brushes that let them dig up incredibly old dinosaur bones called fossils. They can study these and learn even more about the dinosaur, such as how they acted and what they ate. What's very exciting about my school is that with our unique technology, we can take this process a big step further. Real world paleontologists do. But here, we can bring these dinosaurs back to life so that you can learn about them up close. You will get to see how they lived individually and even how they interacted with each other. Be sure to revive all the dinosaurs you can find. Just in case you need help or have any questions, there are a bunch of helpful people spread all across the map. Each one of them has special knowledge about the dinosaurs that you will revive, and some might even give you a reward. Never feel afraid to ask for help, because we're all happily here to make sure you learn as much as possible. That's it from me. Prepare to enter the world.
Maybe it's just me.
The Dimorphodon from the Jurassic period was actually neither a meat eater or a plant eater. Since it ate bugs, it was technically an insectivore. They would live in groups near the ocean. It also wasn't great at flying, but because of their large groups, they could easily harass any predator.
Harass? Oh, I got it. Now I get it. So I was wondering, oh my god.
Elasmosaurus was quite a bizarre specimen from the Cretaceous period. It actually had to eat stones to swim. If it didn't, it would stay on top of the water. The Krasmosaurus is a marine meat-eating dinosaur. It would typically eat small fish and shellfish. Its long neck was perfect for sneaking up on its prey.
Considered the most attractive cat breed and a top quality specimen, is worth an entire house. Canoe for discount. This is a Bengal cat, known for high intelligence and affectionate behavior, but it costs so much that you cannot afford it. Canoe for discount. This is a Chinisili-Hua cat, the most common feline breed, and it is usually available for free adoption. Canoe for discount. This is a lion cat, a large member of the feline family, which you might afford to buy, but could never afford to keep. Canoe for discount. This is a Sphinx cat, inexpensive to purchase, but costly to maintain due to its need for regular skin care. Canoe for discount. This is a Maine Coon, the largest domestic cat breed, and one meal for it can cost you 3 days' worth of wages. Canoe for discount. This is a caracal, a wild feline species that is
Give
neither
this
available
dinosaur
for
plenty of
purchase
space.
nor affordable
The
for use.
Mosasaurus lived during the Cretaceous period. It was extremely territorial. All intruders were quickly attacked and eaten in one bite. Fish, birds, other marine dinosaurs, nothing in the ocean was safe from it. Good thing they are extinct.
Shut my door.
We're getting into the summer months. Therefore, we're about to
Yeah.
experience more calories. And when upping his calorie means that I hit burn some more? Oh, that's a whole heart. We have to make sure we manage his fat. Now, pork is cheap, it's affordable. And some would say it's doable. You go, man, how much is that meal?
You can eat pork.
Look at the sky. It's a pterodactyl, some of the largest flying animals to ever live. These Jurassic period dinosaurs were great flyers and ate fish by flying down and scooping them up in their beaks. The shape of their head allowed it to steer through the air as it glided on air currents. Be cautious. You've just discovered a velociraptor. These creatures were meat eaters that hunted at night. They were extremely fast and would drop down from trees onto the unsuspecting prey below. Even though they were about the size of a wolf, a pack of these hunters were a truly terrifying force of nature.
Into a miracle. I shall bestow you with a name. I summon thee, Godfish! Oh, stupid. Shut up! This is bad. What do I do? You delete it! I have a childhood betrothal, a verbal agreement made by the elders above, at 3 years old. My fiancé was...
You found the Jurassic period dinosaur, Archaeopteryx. It was easily able to glide thanks to its size and feathers. It would leap off of smaller cliffs and trees to travel short distances quickly. This creature is the closest evidence we have to suggest that dinosaurs and modern birds are related.
Giving me a lean, powerful frame, a vibrant energy radiated from me in this life. There was no acid, no disfigurement. My face was intact and flawless. When I smiled, my eyes curved like crescents, identical to my mother's youthful photos. Dad, I've reviewed the company's materials. I can jump right in when I get back, I said. My father glanced at me in the rearview mirror and chuckled. You just got back. What's the rush? I've waited 10 years, I replied on the 3rd day. After my return, he came looking for me. I was leaving the boxing gym, a towel draped over my shoulder, my short hair plastered to my forehead with sweat. A man stood at the bottom of the steps outside the gym. He wore a dark gray overcoat, his figure tall and lean, his brows carrying a familiar coolness. No, that wasn't right in this life. He wasn't my husband. He wasn't even someone I truly knew. We'd only met a few times, but the expression on his face told me he knew me. He stood there, his gaze. I see, that look was too complicated. Shock, anger, a dazed bitterness, as if fate had played a cruel joke on him. Lin Lu, he said, his voice hoarse. He took a step forward, then another, his fingers clenched into fists. How could you not call out? How could you not draw attention to catch that nanny? How could you not? He stopped, his Adam's apple bobbed, his eyes reddened. I am Su Yan. He spoke each word deliberately. I am the real Su Yan. I froze. So, he had been reborn too. He remembered who he was supposed to be. He remembered that at the age of 3, there should have been a scream to save him, and the person who should have screamed had chosen silence in this life. You saw it, he said, his voice carrying something on the verge of breaking. You saw it back then, didn't you? You saw the nanny switch the babies, and you did nothing. I didn't want to deny it. It was pointless. So what? I said.
The Stegosaurus. Its incredible weight of 6,800 pounds made searching for food, like ferns or moss, quite slow. Lack of speed makes it defenseless, but if you look at its tail, you will see some spikes.
me into his
By
side
swinging its
and used
tail,
the momentum
it
to
used
flip
the
him,
long spikes
hitting
to
the ground.
defend
His
itself
back
against
slamming
any and
against the
every
steps
type
with
of
a muffled
predator.
grunt. I leaned down, pressing one hand on his shoulder. My short hair fell forward, covering half my face. Su Heng. I called him by his name in this life. His name was Su Heng, not Su Yen. Listen carefully, don't think that just because you died at my hands in the end, it's all over. The truth is, your life in this life has been so miserable that I get no satisfaction from revenge. He lay on the ground, his pupils trembling. I continued, stay out of my sight, otherwise. I released him, straightened up, draped the towel back over my shoulder, and walked away without looking back. Into the winter sunlight, behind me came his low, broken laughter. It sounded almost like crying. Ever since I learned that Su Yen had been reborn, I have been keeping tabs on him. The Su family was in turmoil. Word had it that the reclusive Su Heng had transformed overnight, becoming ruthless and decisive. All anyone knew was that he had a long, deep conversation with old Master Su. The next day, he entered the company, starting from the bottom, working himself to the bone. The old master, burdened by guilt, gave him plenty of resources, but Su Yen had been raised as an heir since childhood. His connections, his tactics, his vision were no less than Su Heng's. The two of them clashed openly and covertly within the company. A lively spectacle of back and forth. On the other hand, focused on managing my own family business, with no intention of making a move just yet. Occasionally, I'd run into Su Heng at business events. The look in his eyes had shifted from the initial hatred to a cold indifference. We were like two heirs from families that barely knew each other, nodding in acknowledgement, rushing past without even a word of small talk. Another half year passed over a business dinner. I caught some idle gossip. That Su family's real young master has been stealing the spotlight lately. Oh, my internet's too slow to keep up. Spill the details. I heard, to chase after a girl, he set off fireworks all night, hired 5,200 drones, and covered the whole city in flowers. Wonder which girl is so lucky. Someone named Lin, I think, really beautiful. My hand paused slightly. Song Lin. I lowered my eyes. Picked up a piece of green vegetable with my chopsticks, chewing slowly to mask the storm brewing within. Su Heng pursued Song Lin with grand, public gestures. The news of him being the Su family's trueborn son had already spread like wildfire, though the battle between him and Su Yen was still undecided. Looking at the current situation, Su Heng might just win, so everyone was happy to watch the drama unfold. After all, both sides had reputations loud enough. Song Lin, as the top beauty at a prestigious university, was talented, stunning, from a clean family background. With her own career, she had high standards and initially treated Su Heng with cool detachment. Su Heng chased her for 6 months, following her wherever she went, catering to her every whim, going beyond what a simp would do. Everyone said the Su family had produced a true romantic the day he proposed. It was a grand affair. When I got the news, I was working late at the office, flipping through financial statements. I smiled faintly. After the wedding, Su Heng seemed to have unburdened himself. His methods grew sharper. The first person he targeted was the nanny. Her surname was Zhou. After the baby swap back then, she stayed with the Su family for a few more years. Later, Mrs. Su fired her for some reason. She took her savings back to her hometown, opened a small convenience store. But business wasn't great. I heard she occasionally dealt with harassment from local thugs, but none of that mattered to Su Heng. Su Heng hired a top-tier lawyer, accusing her of malicious baby swapping and child abuse. The evidence was solid, undeniable. The first trial verdict came down. Position with a calm expression, relying on memories from a past life. Su Heng knew about 2 major projects in advance. One was the commercial complex development in the new district south of the city. In the previous life, this project was won by an out-of-town real estate company, but it stalled for 3 years due to a funding chain break, until the city government intervened and rebid it, allowing the Su family to pick up the pieces. In this life, Su Heng, while the project was still in the planning stage, convinced old Master Su to approach the government early under the Su family's name, presenting a superior cooperation plan. By the time the out-of-town company caught on, the land was already in Su's hands. The other was a large overseas acquisition. In the previous life, the Su family hesitated for 6 months, missed the opportunity, and a competitor swooped in. Su Heng remembered every critical juncture of the acquisition window. He made his offer at the most opportune moment, closing the deal within 3 months, earning the industry's admiration. With these 2 projects, Su Corporation's profits grew by 40%. At a board meeting, Several old shareholders who had been cool towards Su Heng started cozying up to him. Young Master Heng truly has his father's style. Su family blood. It's different after all. Su Yan wasn't one to back down. He rallied a few old-timers, spreading stories of Su Heng's past, glorious deeds, around the board, dropping out of middle school, getting into street fights, ending up at the police station multiple times. He whispered in old Master Su's ear, Su Heng was raised outside for so many years. His temperament is extreme. He's not fit to steer the ship. The two sides fought fiercely, with undercurrents churning inside Su Corporation. I sat in my own office, living through the latest news. A slight curve forming at the corners of my mouth. Perfect dogs biting dogs, all fur and teeth. But it was time for me to make my move, falling from heaven to hell. Must be quite a thrill, right? I thought this gift to myself would make me happy enough to eat 2 extra bowls of rice. My first formal contact with Su Yan was at a private club on the outskirts of the city. Su Yan was more composed than I'd imagined. His brows carried a suppressed gloom, but also a fierce, restless ambition. Miss Lin, you're looking for me about Su Heng. He cut straight to the point. I lifted my teacup, unhurriedly blowing on the floating foam. Young Master Su is a clever man. I won't beat around the bush. Su Yan's lips curled slightly, but the smile didn't reach his eyes. Does Miss Lin have a past with Su Heng? Not really. I set down the cup, offering no explanation. What does Miss Lin want? I want Su Corporation's land in the south of the city. I smiled. Of course, I won't take it for nothing. I can help you pull Su Heng down. Make sure he never competes with you again. Su Yan finally showed a genuine smile for the first time today. Deal. Our cooperation was simple. A man as proud and arrogant as Su Heng would never let this opportunity slip by. Deliberately leaked news through a few middlemen, saying a new high-speed rail station was going to be built near that South City plot, sending land prices skyrocketing. In the previous life, there had indeed been similar plans, but Su Heng didn't know that in this life, due to urban planning adjustments, the high-speed rail station had been rerouted through Su Yan's connections. I quietly acquired the upstream and downstream suppliers for several of Su Heng's projects. When his funding chain was stretched to its breaking point, I pulled the net tight all at once. The effect was even better than I'd anticipated. Su Corporation's stock dropped 30% in 3 days. All of Su Heng's projects were halted. Banks demanded loan repayments. Suppliers blocked the gates. Over $2 billion in funds were locked up in that South City plot with zero appreciation potential. At the shareholder meeting, everyone pointed fingers at Su Heng. In the final vote, Su Heng was suspended from all duties. I did, indeed, eat 2 extra bowls of rice. Su Heng came to see me on the 3rd day after the news broke. He had lost a lot of weight, dark circles hung beneath his eyes, and his suit hung loosely on him, wrinkled and lifeless. Nowhere near the confident, spirited man he had been just days before. He stood at the entrance of my company building, blocking my car. Lin Lu. He called my name, his voice hoarse. It was you. He glared at me with burning hatred, his eyes rimmed red. The project in Nanchang, you set me up, didn't you, Mr. Su? I leaned back in my seat, my tone indifferent. I have no idea what you're talking about. Stop pretending. He slammed his palm against the car window, his voice suddenly rising. In my past life, there was never any rerouting of the high-speed rail station. It was you. You deliberately spread false information to lure me in. Why? Why did you do this? I watched him lose his composure, and a bitter sense of amusement washed over me. In my past life, when he imprisoned me, amused me, and caused my parents' deaths, did he ever ask himself the word why, or did he just think I, Lin Lu, was a complete fool? Mr. Su, do you have any evidence? I asked unhurriedly. He froze. If you don't have any evidence, I smiled slightly. Then causing a scene like this at the entrance of my company, asking security to escort you to the police station for a while wouldn't be too much, would it? His face shifted between pale and red, his chest heaving violently. After a long moment, his tone suddenly softened, even carrying a hint of pleading. Lin Lu, the Su Corporation's capital chain has snapped. If you inject funds, I'll divorce Song Lin and marry you. We grew up together. I know you've always liked me, bro. Do you even have a face, Mr. Su? I interrupted him, unable to bear his attitude of treating marriage to me as some kind of favor. First, I grew up abroad. How can you say we grew up together? Second, I gave a faint smile. I can inject capital, but guess what? Do you think I'll take the chance to swallow up the Su Corporation? He seemed shocked by my ruthlessness and began cursing loudly. I rolled up the car window and said to the driver, withdrew my gaze and opened my phone. There was a message from Su Yan. Pleasure doing business. The land in Nanjing will be transferred next week. I didn't reply. Instead, I sent a recording to someone. Song Lin, defeated in business. How could he still succeed in love? I figured Song Lin would make a choice that satisfied me, and she didn't disappoint. She decisively filed for divorce and took away most of Su Heng's assets. After all, he had been the one she loved for 2 lifetimes. With my advice, Song Lin secured a massive amount of assets, leaving Su Heng with only the apartment his parents had bought him when they first acknowledged him. Song Lin thought it was too small and didn't want it. Su Heng plummeted back to rock bottom. But that was far from enough. Old Master Su was still alive and still had expectations for him. Su Heng's parents, though not particularly affectionate, were still his biological flesh and blood. They wouldn't let him starve, and lately, he kept popping up in front of me, which was especially annoying. As night deepened, Su Heng sat alone in his empty apartment, facing a bank-issued collection notice. The zeros trailing after the number made his head spin, and his account balance had long since hit zero. He didn't know how he had ended up here. Maybe it was that night at the private club, when he had drunk too much and someone handed him a business card, saying there was a place where he could forget all his troubles. He went, he won, and the feeling of turning things around hooked him like a drug. At first, it was just small bets, but later the stakes grew bigger. Between wins and losses, he realized only when sitting at the gambling table could he temporarily forget the fact that he had lost everything. He didn't know that those seemingly random, good luck moments were carefully designed fate, nor did he realize that every time he thought he was turning things around, he was only being pushed deeper into the abyss. By the time he figured it out, he had already racked up nearly 100 million in gambling debts. The debt collectors started blocking his door. First came the phone harassment, then they came directly to his apartment to splash paint. Su Heng didn't dare return to the Su family mansion. He hid in his apartment, pulling the curtains tight, but the debt collectors were more resourceful than he imagined. A month later, his apartment address was exposed. That night, he stood at the back door of the Su family mansion, his hands trembling. The mansion was full of valuables. Ming Dynasty vases on the antique shelves, Qing Dynasty calligraphy and paintings in the study. These were all years of his father's collection. Su Heng crept in quietly, picked a small, high-value jade piece, and tucked it into his chest. As he left, he glanced back at the second floor window of the mansion. No light was on, he thought. Mom and Dad won't notice, but once something started, it couldn't be stopped. After his first success, he tasted the sweetness. The money from the antiques barely lasted 2 days at the gambling table, so he went back a second, third time to steal. From jade to paintings, from paintings to the gold bars in his father's study safe. The mansion's butler noticed things were missing and called the police. Su Heng's father reviewed the security footage and saw the furtive figure on screen. He nearly passed out on the spot, but Su Heng no longer cared, because the gambling debts kept snowballing. One late night, a group of burly men blocked the door of his rented apartment, slamming a knife on the table, saying if he didn't pay up soon, they'd take an arm first. He begged for a few more days, promising to pay within 3 days. Su Heng thought of Su Yan. Why should the Su Corporation be in someone else's hands? That night, Su Heng logged into the Su Corporation's internal system. He remembered all the passwords, and the board hadn't revoked his permissions yet. He copied the data onto a USB drive, his face expressionless. The next day, those confidential files appeared in the inbox of the Su Corporation's biggest competitor. The Su Corporation's stock price plummeted after the news broke. Clients fled en masse. Suppliers defected. Banks called in loans and cut off credit. The once thriving Su Corporation was pushed to the brink of bankruptcy liquidation in just 2 months. The truth quickly surfaced. Su Heng, with his gambling-addled mind, had logged in using his own account and password, on his own computer. Stupid and malicious. Su Heng's father eventually called the police, but before the police arrived, Su Heng had fled. The news that followed took me a great deal of effort to piece together, but the information was scattered, and when stitched together, it formed nothing more than an ordinary tale of a man's downfall. The last I heard of him was on a winter night when a cold wave was sweeping through the city. My assistant casually mentioned during a report that someone had spotted a figure under the overpass in the southern part of town.
The first thing Laura did when she opened her eyes was bare her teeth at me.
Damn! Oh,
Not because she hated me,
oh, no, I'm so
because she had
sorry.
who I was.
I see. Okay,
Her
sorry.
hand shot toward my throat before the monitors could finish screaming. Even half conscious, weak from blood loss, and wrapped in white hospital sheets, she moved like the alpha who had once brought 3 rival packs to silence with a single look. I froze beside her bed. "Mara," I whispered. Her fingers stopped an inch from my skin. Something changed in her face. Not recognition, not memory, instinct. Her pupils widened, her breath caught. The sharp scent of fear and aggression filling the room broke apart beneath something warmer, deeper, almost desperate.
huh?